Have you ever feel the utter disappointment no matter what you do, you cannot lower your lap time on your track days? Well, I had the same experience as well. Having a high horsepower car, I still was not able to shave off time comparing to my other peers who were in the track or competing against me, although they have a lower horsepower car. And no matter what I do, I was not able to achieve faster lap time. With this disappointment, I learned a very valuable lesson. And I think it is key that horsepower is not always the king when it comes to the track. It is actually counterintuitive that horsepower doesn't translate to higher lap time. What I learned is that traction is king. Even I talked to a lot of people who was in the track days, they said that you need a very balanced car to run good laps and keep doing it repeatedly so that you can achieve a lower time. What happened with me is that I was not able to push my car further. I was not able to drive it harder. Even on the turns, I lose precious time where I have to slow down my car significantly and basically lose time where I see the other cars passing by me who actually have lower horsepower but not able to win against me on a straight line. But as I'm more a fan of track days, that's why I want to invest on it, and I did some homework and I thought it's a great information to share with you guys. So traction is key. There's two components to this. Number one is power delivery and the second one is tire limitation. Now what I mean by power delivery is that no matter how much horsepower you have, if you cannot put that power down to the ground or the tarmac, you won't be able to get the car moving faster. Now, when it comes to the tire limitation, there is an actual limit to how much traction a tire can hold. And that usually is defined by power, whatever. And in this case, we're talking about horsepower. If you have high horsepower, you cannot put down that horsepower in the tires and to the tarmac. So you're actually losing precious horsepower the engine have, especially when it comes to turning too. Because if you have high horsepower and the tire keeps spinning, your car is going to lose out of balance and you won't be able to make that turn. So you have to shave off that power so that you get traction and then you are able to make that turn. So it's counterintuitive. So I want to explain a little bit further why I think there's other aspects to it, not just these two limits. Now let us discuss the handling and the balance of the car, especially on track days. Usually there's two things to it: weight distribution and chassis limitations. Now these two aspects works hand in hand, because if your weight distribution is higher in the front or higher in the back, you would see that when it's in the front, the nose is heavier, so it turns quicker, but the back kicks out a lot faster. Or if your weight is in the rear and you try to take a turn, you'll see that the nose is a little lighter, and then you do a slide motion to the left or right like that. You can actually feel it on the seat. So your car needs to be balanced in a way so that you can push the car further on every single corner. Now the chassis design. I talk about chassis design because certain times if you have a high horsepower car but the chassis is not well balanced or designed, then you will have a lot of issues, especially turning the car, and you will feel it on the chassis that the car is not balanced. It would shake or will do certain motions which is not normal, and you will feel it on the track as well. Now I know I don't have the driving skills like other people who are in the track. I'm a beginner per se, but I do enjoy pushing my cars to the limit on the track. So it's a great feeling and it's one of my hobbies which I really enjoy. Second, what I want to talk about, that with driver skill, there's two things as well. The first one is control. Like a lot of times, especially like beginner like me who is in the track, is not able to push the car further and doesn't understand the weight as far as how I'm turning the car and what line I should be taking. The second one is consistency. So if you have a forgiving car which is well balanced, you are easily be able to push the car further and receive higher track time. So in my mind, I think a forgiving car with a lower horsepower which is well balanced is the key to actually enjoy more on the track day and achieve higher speed or higher average speed and better track times. Now, the track I usually go to usually have a lot of corners. Now, track could be very different on different location or whichever track you're going to, but my track is very small. It doesn't have a lot of straights but a lot more hard corners where I usually go to. So controlling a bigger car which is heavier with high horsepower, it becomes a very difficult thing, especially when you have narrow corners and you're trying to shift the car harder but you're not able to, or else you'll lose traction and just go in the corner of the wall. So understanding the track also helps you, but you also understand that if you're going uphill, a lot of times higher horsepower can be a bad thing because you are not able to make those turns at high horsepower. So controlling the power, having the skill set required to turn is very important. I would say a lot more straight tracks, it's much more easier to make those turns and able to achieve higher lap times. Now, track characteristics is key here because a lot of times you will go to a track and you will see that there is higher corners, like higher number of corners. It's narrower, so you are not able to put down the power as much as you want to achieve a higher track time. Or if you go to a track where there's a lot more straights and you are able to maintain a higher average speed, it's much more easier and more fun on a higher horsepower car. But if your track is small like mine where I go to, it can be very difficult to achieve the same type of enjoyment where every single time you're just fighting over power and trying to navigate through the corners, and you're using your brakes more, your like tire is squeaking all the time, and it's just another scenario you don't want to go into and see, oh man, what's going on. In essence, a well-balanced car with high grip, good handling, and a driver who's able to exploit those situations, especially on the track, is the key to achieve a higher track time. Now, there's a lot of things you can do. You can lower the tire pressure, increase it based on the need you have. You can adjust the camber on your suspensions, but it can go so far. The main thing what I've learned, at least which benefited me and I was racing with a muscle car, which is not ideal. It is designed for drag racing. But for me, in my situation, instead of using track tires, I was able to achieve better track time with regular street tires because they have a little bit more grip than the sports tires. So case by case is very different. So in my mind, I think for achieving good track time, downforce is another aspect which I have not jumped into, but that's another thing. But I'm not at that level to understand or explain that yet. But what I understand is that using a good set of tires, nice brakes, easily you can stop on the corners and come into power without losing a lot of grip is huge. So I think the tires are the most good investment to go. In essence, a well-balanced car, a good gripping tire, and a driver who's able to exploit those situations is going to achieve a higher track time. So in my mind, I'm competing against cars which have only like 300 horsepower and mine is almost 500. So it's a 200 horsepower difference. I'm able to beat them on the straight, but right when the corner comes, they're just flying past me and I'm just still fighting with the big chunk of machine, trying to catch up with them every single time whenever the corner comes in. So it's key to understand why horsepower is not always the king. If you're never doing track days, if you're in the street, I would always say that high horsepower wins because the roads are usually empty, and if you have high horsepower car, you'll always go further than anybody else who is roll racing you or whatever. In my mind, I think those are the three things which I've learned and helped me understand. So eventually I want to build a track car around those parameters so that I can enjoy and go to my small track and have a good time. I hope you like this video. I tried to sum up all the knowledge I've learned or experienced I had on track days. I know I'm just a beginner level here, but I try to share as much information I've learned talking to my peers and the people in the track who actually was a great help. If you like the video, please do subscribe and I will see you on the next one. Thank you.